Hey guys, in our last video we talked a little bit about borrowed conventions and things that you can do that we have experienced from newspapers, magazines, and books, etc., and other websites, and how do we put them together to create an experience for our users. In this case, I want to be focused a little bit more on one specific area that I think needs a lot of our attention, that most of us are doing wrong, but that we can all easily change and affect so that we can create a better experience. Let's talk about the navigation. When you think about a navigation, what is the first thought that you have? How does it come to mind? What is your ideal for what a navigation looks like? One of the things that we as designers sometimes forget is that we are not the target audience. Sometimes we design navigations that make sense to us, but not necessarily to our customers, who our target audience is. So I would challenge you to think about it, research, create personas, create a research that goes around the other competitors, for example, and what their structure for the navigation is, and how does it help you and help your target audience be able to get to places in your site. So here are a few tips and pointers to help you understand navigation a little bit better. The first pointer that I wanted to share with you guys is Miller's Law. Not Murphy's, but Miller's Law. Miller's Law of Design says that users, individuals, can focus on between 7 plus or minus 2 elements within a grouping. The more that you add to that, then as a human being, we start categorizing and breaking them down into smaller groups. We cannot hold that much information in our brains for the most part. Again, that varies based on your users, but for the most part, a good principle of design is to actually look and create navigation elements that are no more than 7 plus or minus 2 elements in there. Now, these elements should also follow a very sequential line of content. So for example, if you have more than 7 elements in your navigation, think about ways in which you can break that down so that your users are able to digest it a little bit more. One of the websites that I really like to go to and give an example on, and I think that they do an absolutely beautiful job, is Starbucks. Starbucks not only sells coffee, not only sells pastries, they also sell teas. They also sell, for example, gift cards, they sell merchandise, they sell all these different things. And when you go to their navigation, it's kind of neat to see how they have created that, how they have broken it down and made it easier for users to be able to go through the site and really know, if I'm looking for coffee, then I'm gonna click on coffee. If I'm looking for tea, I'm gonna look into tea. Maybe in coffee, it's been a while since I've seen it, but you can break it down into hot or cold beverages, right? You can break it down into smaller. So think about what are these smaller groups that we can create so that it's still underneath the same umbrella, right? But at this point, now you're broken it down into digestible chunks where users don't have to think too hard to be able to make a decision. Miller's Law is very important, not only for navigation, but other elements on your site, and I would highly suggest look for Miller's Law of Design and read on it so that you can better understand maybe even how to break down content, sub-navigations, etc. Now, some sites might have a primary navigation, but they also might have a secondary navigation. Primary navigation is where all the most important links happen, where every information that you really need to know about a company could be found in there. A sub-navigation or secondary navigation can be found maybe within an element of the primary navigation. For example, you could click on the link that says About, and then when you go to that About page, underneath you might have about our team, about our projects, about our research, etc., etc., etc. So all these things you can break down into primary and secondary navigation. Each one of them serves a very important purpose, which is, again, making it digestible for users to be able to consume the content on your site. When you're doing this, I will challenge you to keep things consistent. In other words, if your sub-navigation looks one way on one page, make sure that it looks the same way throughout your site. If your navigation links are in a specific order on your page, on one page, make sure that they're the same way throughout the site. I have seen where many designers think that changing the order of navigation can help usability, but it doesn't. Again, the more that we do something as human beings, the more and more accustomed we become to patterns. Remember about usability. Usability is about how a user engages, gets some satisfaction, but also learns from our website. So the more that a user uses our website, the more accustomed they are to how things behave. If you switch it on them, then they'll have to forget or try to forget what they've learned and apply it to this new feature or new thing on how things are done now. Which, again, it could be done based on your target audience, but it's not recommended, especially on navigation. Keep your navigation consistent with the same treatment, same order, same style from page to page to page on your site. Unless, again, look at my video last video on borrow conventions, and then think about, okay, does this apply to some of the things that I was talking then? Another feature that we can have in regards of our website and specifically on navigation is what's called breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs really comes from the tale of Hansel and Gretel. And in that story is these two kids that get into the woods, and in order to remember where they came from, they had a basket with bread and they started doing breadcrumbs all throughout the forest as they went through. If you haven't read the story, I won't ruin it for you. There's a twist to it. But for breadcrumbs, the importance of breadcrumbs is to let the users know where you started and where you're going. Think about it. Where you started and where you're going. A lot of the times you will see breadcrumbs being used on blogs or sites that have articles. You may also see breadcrumbs used on shopping sites, for example, like Amazon, Walmart, where you have different categories and makes it easier for a user to know, okay, I'm currently on electronics, or in TVs, and TVs is part of electronics, and electronics is part of this other section, and kind of helps you navigate and traverse through that level of organization. Again, making it easy for users to know where they've been, where they're going, help them spend more time on your site, which again can turn into more money, more profit, more recognition. Think about it as you're designing your site. Does your site need breadcrumbs? Do users need to know where they've been and where they need to go to? It's a good option for you to use. Another reason why our navigation is so important also is because it helps us with SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. If we're using the proper markup to create our navigation, then when a search engine crawls your website, then they should be able to know, okay, these are the links that we're looking at that are important and helps us navigate from our current homepage or whatever page it landed on throughout the rest of the site. So keeping things consistent in our navigation is key so that search engines know how to navigate through your site, not only your users. The better that you have content on your navigation, the easier it is for search engines to find that content and push you in the right direction, and kind of guide and rank your site based on the content and actually be able to find that content. So again, search engine optimization and navigation use Very important, especially because it helps with the ranking of your site and understanding the content and structure of your page. In this video, we talked about navigation. We talked about Miller's Law, organizing it. We talked about primary, secondary navigation, even breadcrumbs. And we talked about its importance on SEO. I would highly suggest going through the sites that you admire the most, that you visit the most, and look at their navigation. How does it compare to kind of what you have developed in the past or what you're currently working on? Look at the similarities, look at the differences, think about the target audience for each one of these sites, and think how you can borrow some of their ideas to be able to apply it on your site. Again, if you take from only one person, it's called plagiarism, but if you take it from multiple people, it's called research. So go have some research.